Thank you. Gene, good to see you again. Thanks for all the work that you and your team do so much. What's interesting to me is you just finished up talking to Senator Romney about trying to be able to deal with that permanent uh, area of oversight. That's actually Senator Romney has that bill. I'm on that bill, and trying to be able to figure out how we're actually trying to be able to get that done long term as well, because that is an area that we've got to be able to resolve in the days ahead. Let me Senator Hassan, do I have permission to be able to, or authority, or your blessing to be able to put some slides up on the screen?
Indeed, you do.
I'll take that. Let me put a few things up on the screen here. Gene, you and I have talked for years about the taxpayer's right to know and the ability to be able to allow every taxpayer, and including all the taxpayers that sit on this dais as well, to be able to actually see the programs that are out there. As you know, the federal program inventory now, after years of work from both of us, that now exists in its infancy and it has moved from a pilot program to a program that actually exists out there. So the federal program inventory, I've put a slide up there to be able to show everybody what it looks like. I would encourage folks to be able to go test this out for a test run to be able to show what it is. This particular slide is just the opening page of it to be able to see, just doing a program search on it, of about 4.47 trillion in obligations from 2022. 2,388 programs on it. We just asked it the question to be able to show some of the disaster relief programs and to be able to filter out how many disaster relief programs are there. They're in the list. There's 83 of those total across the federal government and all agencies, and listed out the $45 billion in obligations just in that area. And then you can drill down just in DHS programs to be able to ask it that question. Then you can drill down even more into each program. It gives you an outline of what that program does, and then drill down even more about how the obligations have worked over several years, where the trend line is on that. And then you can ask it a fun question that we don't ask enough is, that program exists, who authorized that? Where did it come from? What law actually connects to that? Which we've always felt is incredibly important, to not have programs that are out there that they can't figure out what statute actually authorizes that it's just somebody wanted to do it, so they created it. That's not how it's supposed to work. So all of these have to have their authorizing statute and then the actual results from it. Now, this is in its infancy, and as I mentioned before, there's about 2,300 programs there. Gene, are there more than 2,300 programs in all the federal government?
Yes.
Yes. So they've taken information that already exists in other places, and OMB has dropped that into this new federal program inventory, which is extremely helpful as a starting point. The data, the system, the usability of it has been helpful. So I want to just raise a couple of things just in this conversation. You've been tracking this, I know, a lot, as I have been, on how it's actually being rolled out and what it's being done. Are we in the pilot phase of this, or are we actually in the implementation phase of this? Because it has to be complete by 2027.
Right, right. We're still in the early stages, I think, of implementing it. The OMB's taken some good next steps. They're having the agencies track existing program laws and map them against the 2,300 programs and make sure they're all, it can be more complete. The first step is to make it more complete and make sure it tracks to all the programs. And there's alignment between what they have in there and all the different program activities. They've set some target dates for them to do this, the agencies, this summer and then by the fall timeframe. So that's a good first step.
Right.
There's also, the law also requires, as you well know, that in addition to the information you showed, there'd be a link to program evaluations on each of these programs, whether they're actually achieving the objectives that they say that they are, whether there could be, issues of improper payments, fraud, et cetera, et cetera. So that has to be done yet over time.
Is that done for any of the programs at this point?
I don't believe so.
I don't believe so either. Not that I've been able to see or we've been able to find on it.
Yeah.
The goal of this is, you know full well, the goal was the ability for members of Congress, watchdog groups, or just everyday taxpayers, if they wanted to ask a question, how many disaster programs are out there, to be able to pull down a list, see how much is spent, and then to evaluate it. Are they evaluated at all for their effectiveness, for their oversight? If they are evaluated, how? And which one's working, which one's not? This works really well in things like job training programs. We have a lot. Now, if you pull down job training programs in this, you don't get very many, because we know there's a lot of them that are actually not been added to the system. But we wanted to be able to know Where did that program come from? Is it working? How many employees are being set aside for that one? How much money is being allocated? How much money is actually getting to the end, or how much is being spent in the bureaucracy? This was a way to do a couple things. One is for agencies to be able to oversee themselves. So if they start a new program, they should be able to do a search to be able to determine, is someone else already doing this same thing? Right now, that can't be done, or it can only be done in its infancy to be able to determine that. The second thing is Congress should be able to look at it and to say, before we pass a new law, to be able to quickly determine, is somebody already trying to do this same thing, that we can then say that either needs to be tweaked and fixed because it's a problem, or nothing exists, so we need to try to start it. And so we can actually take out duplication. We've all griped about duplication from this dais year after year. This gives us the opportunity to actually see duplication, set programs side by side, and figure out how they've been evaluated. But we're not complete on that yet.
Right, that's
And so
correct.
it's getting the rest of the data in. From your interactions with OMB, they've done a great job of getting this started. The big missing piece on this, internally on it, is data. The other one is the search feature. You've got to know the magic federal word to be able to search it. And if you don't put in the actual federal program name, you can't just put in general jobs training, something like that. That's not going to get you there. You've got to actually get the magic name that it's called by the agency to be able to search it. So we've got to be able to improve the search to be able to dig into that. How is OMB's commitment to this project that you've seen?
It's the best I've ever seen, and I've been following this, as you know, for a decade or more on this particular effort. You know, when we started overlap, duplication, fragmentation, the law, is at your predecessor's request and put in a law, Senator Coburn, if we would have had something like this, we could have been done a lot faster. I mean, we had to go around and actually extract from the agencies that there were 140 housing programs, that there were 40-some job training programs. Only 4 have ever been evaluated. So it took a lot of digging and research. This tool would be terrific when it's done. It's also why I supported the Data Act, which is now 10 years in its running. The real important thing will be for OMB to get this complete initially, but then have a data governance structure to keep it updated going forward. It needs maintained. It would be a shame to have it built properly and then atrophy because of lack of interest. So they need to sustain their commitment over time. And I know GAO will.
Right. Well, the belief in this is once it's all set up and the data is in there the first time, it's easier to be able to maintain it, and every agency knows when you get the program up and going, you've got to also enter that data over there. But it also hopefully encourages every agency to say, before you start a program, to know you're going to have to evaluate it, you're going to have to show the statutory authority, and you probably should check and see if this already exists before you launch something.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you.
I appreciate your interest and your support on this.
Well, this long-term, I think, has a real benefit to us to be able to get rid of a lot of duplication that we've all been chasing for a very long time.
Absolutely.
Thank you.